Okay, we are live. Welcome to episode 9 of Long Toss here on the Walkoff. I am, as always, Adam Mack, joined by my best buddy, Scott Belford. Scott, how you doing?
Look at us, almost at double digits on a long
I
toss.
know, it's exciting
It's
stuff.
feeling
We even have
good.
real baseball news to talk about. So,
Yeah, it's
um,
very fun.
before we get too deep into the weeds, I do just want to acknowledge that we have Mark babysitting the YouTube live chat. So if you're watching along live on YouTube, throw your comments in as we go, and we'll pick out ones that don't suck and get to them.
It is important to acknowledge that anyone who doesn't get their comment on, this is on Mark. So,
Or
no.
it's on them for having crappy comments, let's be honest. Write better comments. Throw hashtag mailbag, and that always helps. Our Discord is open as well. We do have a free invite link in the description of this video or the podcast on audio, wherever you're listening to it. Lots to get to today. Last little bit of housekeeping. Our Patreon is up and running. We'll just shout that out, and thanks to everybody who supported us there. And then through Discord, we are running a fantasy baseball league. So our draft is going to be about 1 week away. Looked like we had about 25 to 30 entries for that 16-team league. So we have picked the lineup, and I'm going to announce that towards the end of the show. But we do have our 16 teams announced for that fantasy baseball league, so that'll be a lot of fun. And otherwise, let's get going here. So let's start with Mr. Craig Ballard. How are you doing, buddy?
You can't knock the smile off my face. With Randall Grichich traded out of Canada, I automatically move up a notch for handsomest man in Canada. So I'm all good right now. I am all good right now.
We all bumped up one spot.
Bingo. Oh, beautiful. Beautiful.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
in that competition.
All right. Joel, how are you doing, buddy? Nice to see you again.
Yeah, I'm doing great, Adam. Doing great. Happy to be ninth episode. Wow, these are clipping by.
I know, and you're sitting out on the Oscars tonight to be here with us. So
that's right.
We feel special for sure.
20 years ago, it would have mattered. Today, I brought it up, and people were like, "Tonight's the Oscars." That's what's happened to the Oscars.
Fair enough. All right, and then we've got Ainsley joining us from CTV in Winnipeg. We were talking temperatures just before you joined us on the Zoom chat here. So it's cold
freezing
out here. How cold is it in Winnipeg?
As expected. Exactly how you'd expect it.
That sums it up.
Brutal.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for taking the time to chat with us today. We're looking forward to it.
Awesome. Thank you.
Then we've got... most of you probably know him simply as Blue Jays Dad on Twitter. Messaged him before we went live, and I said, I need a first name. And he said, just Blue Jays Dad is fine. So we're going to address him with a different first name every single time. Just to be spiteful. So Larry, welcome to the show.
Hey, it's thanks for having me, but it's BJD to you. Hey,
There you go.
well, thanks for having me, and yeah, people can follow me on the Twitter at Blue Jays Dad, and also my Cavapoo puppy at Bo Barkshet.
Right, very cool. You're showing us your dog just before we went live, so very cute dog you've got there. All right, so let's get rolling here. Mark, do you want to start us off with something from Discord?
Yeah, sure. Let's see what we got. The Blue Jays over the past 2 years, with almost no attendance, still spent a lot of money. Do you think they're profitable, even before the attendance, or do you think they just thought that it was an investment?
So that's a good point. I mean, with the COVID shortened season, and then all the time we spent down in Buffalo and Dunedin last year, attendance was down arguably at Blue Jays games considerably, and yet we're still big spenders. That's a tough question there to do with the financial breakdown of the Blue Jays. I have to feel like it's still throw everything. They've got to be profitable, right?
Well, profitable was A. What was B?
Or
You think
they
it's just an investment?
An
Yeah,
investment. Well, for me, I'm in the camp of C. I want to add a C then. You guys know, I've said before, Mark Shapiro and Ross Atkins, what they built in Cleveland was sustainable, but it took a lot of years of lumps, a lot of years of losing and building. Then right as that playoff window opened, right as the fruits of their labor were coming to fruition, there's Rogers on line 2 saying, hey, how'd you like to come to Canada and do all that rebuilding, go all through that hard, right as the good times are starting for you, how'd you like to come here for all the hard times? So Rogers must have been crystal clear that there is going to have to be some heavy lifting. There is going to have to be some lean days here. But when you have us on the doorstep of being a perennial all-star, you will be thrilled with what the budget is. So for me, I feel like this is Rogers coming through on the way they would have gotten Shapiro and Atkins in the door to begin with.
Yeah, I think you're right there, and I think that kind of leads into our first real topic of the night, with Rogers Center officially announcing some immediate renovations to a more long-term sustainable plan to the current stadium that is projected to last 10 to 15 years, or lengthen the life of the stadium, I think they said, by 10 to 15 years before needing to rebuild a brand new one. So if they're going to drop $200 million on these renovations, then they've clearly got it in the budget to put a proper team on the field around it. So I think that's
especially when
the
caveat came out that a new stadium in 10 years to 15 years is not off the table at all. So they're going to do these renovations, and then they still have in their long-term plan of putting in a new stadium, which, yeah, obviously they've got money. Although I did spend a lot of time worrying about Rogers' financials over these hard COVID years. Just waking up in the middle of the night in a sweat.
How much did you say?
Well, I had heard the initial estimates on their intermediate renovations for this offseason was in the $150 million range. So the announcement that I've heard recently within the last couple of days sounds like it's above and beyond that. So I didn't see any specific numbers, but it would have to be bigger.
Well, just to get Blue Jays Dad, because Blue Jays Dad's in the U.S., so just to get him on the same page, so 150 million Canadian Blue Jays Dad, that's about $700 for what you'd be considering.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I was going to bring up the fact that the training facility was upgraded to pretty much being the best training facility in baseball as well. So that was a really big investment in the team. I think when you look at the team now, you're looking at it over the last 25 years of the team, like the success that we had in 15 and 16 was very much dependent on pulling in players, Batista, Encarnacion, players from that we didn't build internally. But now we have that building block internally, and we have that like foreseeable future of this team. Already is a 90+ win team. But they're young, right? They're in the category of being the 3 youngest teams in baseball. So the future is really, really, really sexy. And then the investments that you see within, like you said, the renovation, but also saying we're going to move to a new ballpark in 10 to 15 years. You don't often see them saying in that, amount of time, we want to build a new stadium. So we're investing so that the team looks good for the next 10, 15 years with the group that we've got. And then we're going to build a new sexy stadium. That says that, they're spending money now and they're going to spend money in the future.
Do you think
These renovations better have a cup holder in the 500 section? I'll tell you that much.
Can I do some math for a second on this?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
please.
But guess what? I'm going to be 60 years old by the time there's a new stadium.
I don't like that.
You look great.
You're making me do the math on my age. I don't like it at all.
Let's all go around and tell our age, and why not? Let's throw our weight in there as well. Ainsley, let's start with you. No. I'm just hoping that this new stadium they want to build is still in Toronto. Is that me being too pessimistic? Oh man, this team isn't leaving anytime soon though. Let's quickly just go around while we're talking stadium. Who's all been to a game live in Toronto there at the Rogers Center? Because I know I'm out west, so I've been to a few Blue Jays games. I've not been to one at Rogers Center. So am I the lone duck that hasn't been to one in Toronto?
I think so.
Oh, disappointing. Well, I'll just keep my mouth shut on my opinions then. But
I
cup
like that you
holders for
chose-
everybody.
I like that you chose to call yourself the lone duck and not like the lone wolf or something cooler.
Oh,
You're
man.
just a lone
I'm not
duck.
cool enough to be a lone wolf. No, this is a one-man duck pack. Let me tell you that.
The lone duck on the pond.
Lone duck on the pond. All right. Another hot topic that has been kind of making some momentum here through spring training is we're seeing a little bit more talk about this PitchCom transmitter. At the college levels, we saw a few different colleges were using some wristband technology to make their pitch calls and everything like this. I guess in an attempt to speed up the game and limit sign stealing. But now we're actually seeing it at Major League spring training camps. I guess, how's everyone feel about it is a pretty vague question. But I will just say, as a starting off point, that I love it and I love the direction that we're going. And anybody that wants to fight me on that, please speak up. But I see Craig giving me a thumbs up. So let's start with Craig. How are you feeling about this introduction of more technology into the game? And do you think this is a good idea, Craig?
Big time. I love it. We have the technology. I'm in for using it. I watched the Dodgers and Kansas City game yesterday, and Salvador Perez used it for one inning. And even zooming in on it, it's all black button. You can't tell anything happening. There's going to be no scene stealing. He was slower with it than what we saw Danny Jansen the other day, to be totally honest. So maybe the catchers themselves have to work out some bugs there. I think it's absolutely superior. You talk about slowing the game. What have we railed on every single week in long toss? The pitch clock, all this other crap that they want to institute to shorten the game. This is a great way to shorten the game. How many times does a guy go to second base? Now the catcher's got to come out to the mound and they have to go over, okay, here's our new key, the multiple signs. You're cutting down on multiple of those every single game. Like, I can really see this cutting down on the game itself. I'm a fan of it quite a bit, and I really got bought into it when, I don't know if you've seen Danny Jansen talk about it. He raved about it, absolutely raved about it.
I was surprised by that.
And what I haven't seen is, because so far everyone's doing it an inning at a time, so they probably have a real good idea ahead of time as they go to the mound what they want to do anyway. What I haven't seen is it prolonged use and a pitcher not agreeing with the call they get. So that, how does that work? That I haven't seen yet. But so far, so good. And we have the technology, man. I'm here for it.
Yeah, we are eliminating moments where Kevin Kiermaier can steal cards off the ground on us.
Oh, my
that's pretty
gosh.
much what this is. You don't get the pitcher constantly looking at his cheat sheet in his hat. It's all the same. They're doing the exact same thing. It's now just with a watch and a
Yeah.
What about a complete algorithm-driven sequence where it just goes right to the pitcher? This is what you're throwing from head office.
from Shapiro.
Wow.
This is something that we've kind of roughly discussed in the past. I think when Vanderbilt first started using their wristbands, that was the speculation that we discussed, and I think that feels like it's inevitable. Like, as soon as we start doing this, I don't see why you wouldn't. I understand from a romance of the game, it sure is nice having a smart catcher back there, but yeah, it does feel like, I mean, if we're going to pay an analytics department to just do all that research anyways, and you could just put a doofus with some big muscles back there, why not?
Gary Sanchez.
Bigger muscles.
Bigger muscles than Gary.
Nowhere there. Doofus with big muscles. A shot fired at Joel. What happened? Wow. That was...
Was the big muscles part.
Yeah.
Man, Joel, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, I was going to say that I think my standpoint on it comes from catchers. If catchers across the board agree that this is something that they want, then I'm pretty much on board with it. I just don't. If they feel like the position's being diminished, like you say, the choices are coming from the dugout all of a sudden, I really would hope that a smart catcher would just improve their analytical knowledge so that they would be the person that understands those places to get those outs, so they would still be the one making the decisions. I would really like to see, I haven't seen the piece of tech myself. I don't understand currently what it is, but it'd be really interesting if you got it to a point where you could, pitch one, fastball away, second pitch, slider away, third pitch, fastball away, and you have a sequence of 3 or 4 pitches, and you send those all in, and the pitcher goes, okay, those are my next 4 pitches, and they go, get the ball, come set, throw the ball, get the ball, come set, throw the ball. And your speed jacks up because you're waiting on the batter now. The time is forced on the batter to be ready because the pitcher knows what's coming. He knows what to do, and he's waiting on you. So it kind of shifts the balance, and that pitch clock may be called the hitter clock if something like this goes through, right?
I wonder though with that how much the sequencing would be affected though by the count, right? Like, could you plan 4 pitches ahead if it turns out to be 3 straight balls? Maybe that 4th pitch isn't going to be
clearly you
right?
could press something to clear the pitches and then set up a new one. But if you wanted to do like 2 or 3 pitches, you could do that. I could see the first 3 pitches being, I want this, I want this, I want this. Then if we're 3-0, obviously we're shit. But like, I could see that. I could see you getting into a groove and having those pitches set because you're trying to throw them mostly for strikes as well. So
one thing that I understand about pitching, I don't know if I'm right about every pitcher, but this little book right here, this is the one that Roy Halladay read that revitalized his career. And this book really emphasizes one pitch at a time. And so the pitcher, in order to execute that pitch effectively and excellently and perfectly, needs just one pitch on their mind. So I don't know if everyone follows that, but that was it's a great little book. You can get it used. The mental ABCs of pitching. It's good for life too. It's it's a fun book.
Be in the now.
Yeah, no, I mean, it goes through like just every situation you could be in on the mound, and like everything is parallel to life. It's pretty cool.
That is interesting.
Awesome.
Very cool.
I love that. I want to take a screenshot, actually.
Yeah, go ahead. Here, I'll do it again.
Mental ABC pitching. I'll write it down. Thank you.
That's good.
Awesome.
I will throw that in the show notes as well after the fact, so anybody watching or listening later can know exactly what we're talking about. So thanks for that one. That's really good. Funny how much pitching advice translates to life advice just really well. That's the beautiful thing about sports. I think we can all agree on there.
When things get rough, you can always go high and inside.
Inside, yeah. All right. Any other thoughts on the PitchCom technology? Good or bad? I know Scott.
Honestly, just
school,
that
so
it's coming. Like, I think it's just coming, right? Like, there's no way around it. Even when we sat down and we were lucky enough to have Joe Siddle come on the show a couple months ago, and we bounced off him the idea of pretty much what we're talking about right now, and he straight up he hated it and straight up said there's no way it's happening. And we're 2 months later and we're like, well, it is happening. And it doesn't matter who doesn't like it. Like, it's here. The technology is available and guys are going to use it. So,
look, I mean, sorry, go ahead, Craig.
I was just going to say, Siddle was stunned at Danny Jansen's praise for it. And my last question here, I'm against Scott's team. My technology somehow malfunctions. Does that take Scott's team out of using that as well? That's another follow-up question I have for the of this as well.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Yeah, that is definitely a consideration they'll have to figure out from a technical standpoint.
I'm just going to add from a fan standpoint, like I watch the games and I try to watch the signs.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys do that, but I try to, if the camera's ever giving you the shot where you see the signals being put down and you kind of like, oh, fastball's coming and you know something's coming as a fan. And I'm not saying those instances happen all the time, but you get a slight inclination of something that could happen in advance and you get a little bit more at the edge of your seat. And I feel like that's kind of sad that would be taken out, that little, you did the sign stealing at home. You put the work in of doing that.
We didn't have that in 1985, though. That was very difficult to do on the old black and white TV. Those games from Exhibition Stadium, it just looked like guys were scratching themselves.
2 thoughts on that, Joel. The first time I ever paid attention to that was last year when the Jays were playing in Dunedin, and everyone was complaining that the lighting wasn't good enough during night games. So the catchers started wearing that like neon tape on their fingers.
Yeah.
And then it was really talked about and focused on. So that was the first time I really started paying attention to it. Just trying to see if I could see, squint hard enough and see those bright yellow fingernails was pretty cool. But where you're going with this, I understand that for your perspective, you like the challenge of like seeing the sequence of the fingers and whatever and trying to determine okay, I think it's a fastball, and then you see fastball and you go, okay, pat on the back, I got that right.
Yeah, and I also like to almost like explain that when I'm sitting with somebody who doesn't really know baseball that well, and I'm trying to explain the mental game that's going on between the catcher, the pitcher, and the hitter. And you're like, okay, this pitch seems to be working. That's why they're focusing on this pitch, and they're calling that pitch. And you can see that it's fastball away, and they do like nobody's on base, so they're not doing anything beyond the basic signs.
Mm-hmm.
And they even give you like a little indication of where they want it to throw. Right? It's not just finger
Mm-hmm.
down. It's finger down
Mm-hmm.
in this way, or this one is fastball in, right? So it's different fingers in your, I don't know. I always love being able to go, okay, that means this. And then you see that the catcher is set up away, but gives fastball in and then moves in right at the last second. And you know that you called it, you got it right. And then they go, oh, and then I don't know, just from an explanation standpoint, that's always been a thing that I love to try to point out.
Just in case baseball needs to be nerdier.
Dude, it can be as nerdy or not super nerdy. We just love the nerdiness of it.
Yeah. I wonder about from a casual fan perspective though, if that would be something that, I mean, there's a lot of risks to the idea of having the broadcast have access to that information and being able to like display ahead of time, like
especially with the Yankees apparently used potentially, I don't know, we haven't seen what the letter says, but potentially YES, the Yes Network, was potentially their cameras were being used for exactly that reason, right? So another reason to go to beep boop beep boop boop,
which would make the Houston banging the trash can seem so primitive for it to be happening literally in the same series of the same year. But anyways, we'll wait and see what those letters say.
All right, well, let's go from here now to on the subject of sign stealing. The MLB has sent several new proposals, or the MLBPA, with an emphasis on sign stealing. So I guess let's just start. Let's go around the horn here and just see quickly, how's everybody feel? Like, is sign stealing the worst thing in the world? Is it, like, where do you draw the line at sign stealing? When does it become, part of that competitive edge that every team's looking for? And when does it go too far? Because I'll just start with myself and then we can go to you, Scott. But I grew up playing minor league sports where the coaches would say, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying, right? I honestly, I don't really have a problem with any of the sign stealing because I think everybody does it and some teams are just better than others. So for me, that's good at getting shit for saying this, but it just feels like the Rays are smarter than a bunch of teams and some teams are better at sign stealing. Like, if you have just the best algorithm to determine whatever, like, I don't know, a little bit of a tip of the cap to you. So I don't know. I know no one's going to agree with me on that, but Scott, where do you feel on sign stealing?
No, I actually do agree with you. I'm all for it as long as it's not electronic. Like, as long as they're not like long zooming in from way out in the outfield and relaying signs through video. I think if they can steal a sign, all the power to them. I don't know.
All right, no, that's good. We'll let's leave that for there. We'll come back to it. Craig, how about yourself?
Same, absolutely same. If we're there, I was praising technology earlier. Now here, that's a bridge too far. If my baseball IQ out there notices something, that to me feels like completely 1,000% part of the game. If my baseball IQ depends on Adam over there with the camera relaying it to Scott, now here it comes on mine. Oh, wait a minute. How many bangs was that in the trash can? Well, now I definitely have an issue. So Adam said, what's the line? I definitely feel like there is a line. Absolutely, yes.
All right. Blue Jays dad. Thomas, how do you feel?
Yeah, I would say I want to bring it just a replay review. I know I'm changing the topic, but the principle is the same. And that is, I think if it's meant to speed up the game, then there shouldn't be, 20, 30 seconds you have to review a video to see if you want to review it. I think a lot of this stuff, it's got to be naked eye. And that's, for me, why I don't believe in sign stealing with video. I don't believe actually in challenging a call after watching video. I think it should be with the eyes. Coaching staff, players appealing, and then the manager makes a decision. So that's a big one for me.
Hold on. Before we move on from there, I just want to... So you want to eliminate video reviews altogether?
No, but
No,
what
I want to eliminate the chance the team has to like wait for their video guy to rewind,
okay.
look at the
Gotcha.
video slow-mo. Should we challenge it? I want that out of there. I want naked eye, and then we're gonna challenge it now, or we're not going to challenge it.
Flag.
But no guy in the back on a monitor, because to me that just takes away from the game. It takes away from, I think, even in my mind, the intent of replay. You want to get the call right, and sometimes as a player, you really believe the ump got it wrong. And if you really believe it, then, and you can convince your manager that, then it should go to the replay. So same with sign stealing. Zero should happen with videos, but I also think that at a point that you can't stop it. Like any realistic solution has to be something that doesn't need to be constantly managed and policed. So for me, if they can go to like what we're talking about with on the wrist and this and that, and I would love that. It's not what I prefer overall, but everything's changing, and it's my preference for a solution to sign stealing.
Okay.
Love it.
Ainsley, how about yourself?
I think that I don't really have a hot take because I feel like regardless, it's going to happen. So it doesn't matter what sanction's not the right word I'm looking for. Whatever new rules they're going to come up with, I feel like it's happening no matter, like there's shit in the woods. So
signs are going to be stolen. It's very true. Like even when signs aren't being stolen, people think signs are being stolen. Like, still one of my favorite accusations for the Blue Jays is the men in white in center field. I love that.
I mean, absolutely true. Like, it is going to happen, and I think that's where the next logical question is if we even do go to, these PitchCom devices or whatever. Are we going to kid ourselves and pretend that the Yankees or the Astros or the Blue Jays or whoever aren't going to try and figure out a way to hack into that? And
I was going to say they're getting hacked now. That's the whole thing.
Everyone's got an IT guy on their payroll.
In Russia.
Oh my
God.
Oh my gosh.
Russia's on everyone's
payroll. I mean, all I know is that, look, every 2 weeks I get a notification to update my iPhone software because a new exploit has been discovered and they got to make a patch to try and close it, right? Like, it's a cat and mouse game where, unfortunately, the hackers are always one step ahead. And I think it would be crazy to think that there wouldn't be a financial incentive to try and figure out a way to do it, right?
Well,
Joel, we haven't talked to Joel yet, so let's get Joel's thoughts on this before we really go off the rails here with sign stealing.
Honestly, all the greatest opinions have already been said. All right, I pretty much agree with a facet of everyone. I like the idea that if you're going to do sign stealing, it should happen on the field, right? Like if your second baseman is able to pick a sign and relay it to your first base or third base coach, it has to be on the field. If you're doing it outside, if something is happening from the outside of the field, that's too much. I really like the aspect of taking out the video replay and going elsewhere, because then you put the ability on the first base coach. If your first base coach has this bullseye eye and hears the bang bang play and knows safe, and you can trust him, you're like, and he looks at you and he was safe, and you go with it. You go with his eye over the umpire. It adds a value to that, the coaching position, right? So I like that aspect. And the final thing about sign stealing, like, I really think that pitch execution, you can steal a sign, but I think a lot of the greatest hitters of all time are looking for a pitch to hit more so than like you hear some guys like, I don't want to know what's coming. I want to see a bad pitch out of his hand and rip it, right? If I know it's a slider and it's perfect, but I'm swinging because I know it's a slider. Like, a lot of hitters don't have that mindset, right? They would rather, and like look at George Springer. We went and signed George Springer because we believe that George Springer is George Springer without somebody telling him what's good. And his OPS was 910 when he played last year. He wasn't cheating, right? So how, you know, it's a factor of the game, but it's really your ability to hit a ball that you can see out of that hand. And it's more, I think, that than really knowing what's coming. Or at least just another aspect of this conversation.
Well,
I love your idea, Blue Jays dad, of if you don't make the call with your own eyes right away, you lose the opportunity. Because let's face it, like the amount of times that teams go to replay and you're sitting there for 45 seconds before they're like, okay, we are going to replay. And then they've got a 3-minute replay, and then you watch them still get it wrong. And you're like, so we just spent 5 minutes for absolutely nothing. Like,
yeah, it is painful because it does feel like the following pitch that happens right after that close play. The pitcher, I mean, no pitch clock, right? So the pitcher is really dawdling out there and, you know, getting an extra rub of the rosin bag because he's just stalling, right? I need to give my coaching staff that extra 10 seconds to look closely and whatever. So I don't know, the idea of really having to trust your first base coach or the players themselves, right? Because there's times where a guy slides into third base and he's like, no, I was under that tag. Like he missed me, right?
Yep.
So.
And that's, I think also that's the stuff that's obvious for a replay.
Yeah.
You take out a lot of the, was there a hairline between that?
Mm-hmm.
When, you know, as a player, you know that you got the glove on the guy early. The ump didn't see it because of his angle. So now you're like, review that because I know I got him. You just didn't see it. But these issues of like someone coming slightly off the bag, and I think it would reduce a lot of those things just built in.
Well, while we're on the topic of replay, here's one of my, this doesn't solve every problem to do with replay, but this, I feel like works across all sports. If we could just synchronize our cameras, right? Because there's so many times where one camera angle shows one thing, right? It's like, okay, well, there's where the ball's in the glove, but we can't see when his foot touched the bag from this one, right? But like if everything was synced between all the 200 cameras at the stadium, like to the 1,000th of a second, so that you could at least just play the two footages side by side and go, okay, this is when his foot touched the bag, this is when the ball went into the glove. How hard would that be from a technical standpoint to just have everything synced up? I don't understand why that's so hard to do.
Well, I'm on the other side of all of this. If he's off the base by a millisecond, I want that out.
That's why we love you, Craig.
I want the right call. I want the right call regardless of anything, and I'll take those 5 minutes where it was wasted time. Because Scott, my God, that's the reason for this.
Yeah.
The umpire, the New York, where they go to check the replay, they are an absolute nightmare. It's the reason for the bald head. So I'm on the other side of this myself. I'll say on technology, we've gone too far with the technology. When we see a moment where Jose Barrios comes set, his thing beeps, he steps off, and he turns to Cavan Bigio and says, "You just unfriended me?" Well, no, we know we've gone too far.
I got one more thing about that, about the replay review.
Okay.
I want a live stream feed of the umpires in New York, in whatever office they're in their boxer shorts with cigars. I don't know what they're doing in there or who's in there, but sometimes it feels like, we're dealing with another issue. Just call them safe. Like they barely get their headsets on, they're off.
The Oscars are
obvious
on,
and they're waiting forever. I want a live stream. Wouldn't that be fun? To see like Richie Garcia or whoever is in there, you know? I just think that'd be awesome.
Zone in football, where they go to it right when a team's in the red zone. You could have something like this in baseball. That's a great idea.
Well,
I totally agree.
I can't think of the name of the football league, but there was one of those like XFL type football leagues that sprung up this year and then probably folded 3 games later. But that was one of the things that they were experimenting with, was having the video review being like part of the broadcast, right? So that you could see them and they were talking back and forth. You know, it's like having the commentators going, well, was it a first down or not? But you're in there with the actual officials, right? And then at least you even if the call is wrong, you can at least appreciate their reasoning, and you go, okay, well, you know, they're calling them safe because it was inconclusive or because of whatever, right? So I do like that.
Yeah, and you could be like, okay, it's against the Jays because they're all wearing Yankees hats.
Yeah. That's right.
You stole my. I was gonna say. They're all Yankees.
Sorry,
fans over
man.
there. No, it's all good. I was thinking the same thing.
All right, Mark, let's go to you now for from something from Discord. Unless anybody has something else they want to add here quickly to the thought of replay reviews and sign stealing. All right, let's go to Discord then.
Somebody in Discord asks, is anybody watching Team Canada's bid for the World Cup? I guess that just happened, but
I was watching.
Yeah, it looks
They won
like
2-0,
Canada
right?
won, hey?
Yeah.
4-0 victory
Canada
over
won it.
Jamaica.
Oh, 4-0. Wow.
so we're in and Italy's out.
Yeah.
We're in, isn't that wild
Perfect.
times? So congratulations to the soccer team. I don't know, but do you guys watch the World Cup if Canada isn't in it? 'Cause
It's
I,
what
I
I've
watch
said.
it every year. But
That's every year, right?
No, it's every 4
Is
years.
talking about sailing?
No, my tradition is to just always like pick one country and arbitrarily and root for them. So it'll be weird to actually have some stake
Skin in the game.
so far.
Yeah.
Skin in the game. All right, well let's get back onto baseball here now. This is a topic that none of us probably want to have to be talking about, but Pete Walker is in the news. DUI, was doing 130 and a 70 in kilometers per hour. What was the miles per hour? 82 and a 40?
85, 85 and a 45, or 82 and a 45 or something.
So there's going to be some fallout from this. I guess, can we just all preface this whole conversation by saying, don't drink and drive, right? Drinking and driving is bad. We're all on the same side there. We all agree with that.
Very much so.
Craig's shaking his head. He's like, well, I don't know. Technology, on the other hand.
No. I'm guessing Blue Jays dad and I have been around since the drive of 85. We've been around for a while. And even in 1985, this would have been completely unacceptable. You didn't have a quarter. You couldn't say, call me, 4 words. One of them is, by the way. You couldn't say that to the bartender. You're in Dunedin with your entire staff. There's not one person on that staff that you are close with that can help you out. And that's then. How about now with apps on apps on apps on apps? So in other words, options on options on options on options. This is completely unacceptable. I'm going to calm down right now because I'm super upset about this. Really?
No, don't calm down. I mean, there's definitely, your being upset is justified in this situation. Countless lives are lost every year from drinking and driving. Whether you're a professional athlete or a millionaire, or you're a poor piece of shit like me, there's no excuse for drinking and driving. I'm sure it's a problem that has touched everyone in a personal way. At some point in your life, you know someone who has probably either been injured, if not worse, due to drinking and driving. So it is a horrific decision to have been made. And I guess we should just count our lucky stars that nobody did die in that situation. Yeah. So where do the Blue Jays go from here as far as a punishment? Like, what happens to Pete Walker? What do you want to see happen to him? So Ainsley, let's start with you. Let's put you in the hot seat here. Pete Walker, DUI. What do you want to see handed out? How do the Jays resolve this? How does Pete Walker resolve this? Is there a way to move on?
I'm trying to think of like this happening to other franchises and however many games that they would have gone. Like, I would probably just go to the standard or the norm in this situation because I'm sure as hell it's happened before.
The White Sox have had that with Tony La Russa several times.
Yeah, like I'm not good at putting out like this many games. Like, I don't know, but I would probably just make the comparison for the industry standard and then go by that.
Yeah, so disappointing. Like, that's the biggest thing with this is it's just like, I was such a huge Pete Walker fan, and to see somebody like that I respected so much do something that is so obviously wrong. It's just like such a bummer. And I don't even know where I really fall on this. I'll be honest. I don't really want to see him lose his job over this. I think that he doesn't have a history of this sort of thing. I've never heard anything about him doing this sort of shit before. Humans make mistakes. Now, it all depends on how he comes about and handles this. You know, like, I know that even his statement was very much what my lawyer says, and, you know, like, it did come across very much like he was covering his own butt. It didn't seem genuine. For what I'm about to say next to, I just want to be very clear that I think this is totally on Pete Walker. This is nobody else's fault. This was his own decision making. That said, I don't understand why every single organization in baseball doesn't have a car service for every coach in their disposal. You know, like, why in the world and I'm not saying that Pete Walker isn't responsible, 100% responsible, but, like, on a bigger aspect, if you look at the age group and the dudes that are doing this, they're all coaches, right? It's not players getting busted for drinking and driving. It's all the Tony La Russas or the coaching staff. So why even put it in their hands? Make a friggin' guy follow them around everywhere they go. You sign here, you lose your driving privilege, and you're just like, now you're taking car services. I don't know. The whole thing is just so disappointing.
Yeah. Go ahead.
For me, I think when it comes to apologies or accountability right after something like that happens, I don't know that I wouldn't say it's not genuine, but I'd at least say that very limited what somebody can say. It's very limited. Even not in just a situation like this, but other situations, you are limited by so much. And a big part of I think Pete Walker's situation is that if he gets something on his record, it's going to be very difficult crossing borders.
Yeah,
and
that's true.
So, and because it seems to be a first-time offense, it's probably not going to be that big of a deal legally if he follows his lawyer's advice and they go through the certain steps. So if he were to say something that is honest and true, it can be used against him. In getting so and for me, I mean, when I saw it, I was disappointed. You know, your heart sinks because that was a longtime member, I guess maybe the longest member of the coaching staff of the organization right now, and someone who we just think is a miracle worker with new arms, and but to see that, my heart sunk. At the same time, I go to. And it's not to make excuses at all. Like it was the wrong decision. It could have been a lot worse. Thank God it wasn't. At the same time, we don't know what's going on in Pete Walker's life. It could be as simple as a one-time thing that he thought something, blah, blah, blah. And I don't want to speculate that because that's not really our business unless he makes it a part of our business. So anyway, for me, that's kind of my take. And I just hope all the best, all things considered, that everything gets better. And I guess I don't think Tony La Russa has ever got a suspension from Major League Baseball or from the club. Am I correct in that? And if so, that still, in my mind, doesn't rule out MLB wanting to
set a precedent.
Yes.
And there's nothing really you can compare it to. It's like it's what that is. People were trying to compare it to like other off the field offenses, and it's like, no, it's not that. It's this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, great point. I thought Adam did a really nice job here as well of setting the stage. Hey, we all agree, this is real life, right? We love talking sports, but this is real life. The sports aspect, just to bring it back to sports, so we're not having such a heavy convo here. This is a big deal, guys. The 2022 Toronto Blue Jays were off to a major start. This is a big deal. Kikuchi needs to get back in the strike zone.
Yeah.
That was going to be Pete Walker. Merriweather, Pearson, all Pete Walker. Ryu bounce back season, all Pete Walker. The adjustments he made with Barrios last season, the adjustments he made with Stripling last season. Man, this is a big deal. I'm hoping that Pat Hankin gets brought back in the mix. That might be out of left field for some of us, but that's my hope right now, is that Pat Hankin, I love his baseball mind. I hope he comes back in. But guys, on the field, let's acknowledge this is a big deal.
So, Craig, out of curiosity, would you like to see, or not like to see, obviously nobody wants to see someone lose their job over this, but do you think that Pete Walker should and probably will be let go when all the information comes out?
I'm beyond intrigued, and I'll tell you why. Roberto Osuna gets arrested. The next millisecond, Rogers makes it clear you'll never wear a Blue Jays jersey again. Major League Baseball concludes their investigation with Mr. Blue Jay Roberto Alomar. In the next millisecond, everything about Roberto Alomar, you don't even know he was part of. That's only our memories. That makes he is persona non grata with the Toronto Blue Jays at this point. Rogers is publicly traded. They have acted swiftly anytime something's happened. But I love Ainsley's point that this is its own animal. We will, because Blue Jays dad said it as well. We don't know what's happening here. Is the right thing to do that there's help needed, et cetera, et cetera. We're just not going to know that. I think we're very justified by all being disappointed, regardless of what the scenario is. I think we're very justified in being disappointed. But yeah, absolutely. I'm very intrigued. I don't even have a good answer for you, Scott, about what I predict to do. But when we have to acknowledge the precedence that has been set has been swift and decisive action by this ownership.
That's a really good point about just how they have acted before in the past when transgressions have kind of popped up. But again, like Ainsley said, it's its own animal for sure, right? Like you can't compare this to Osuna's situation. You can't compare this to anything else. It's its own thing, and I guess only time will tell how it kind of shakes out. But I would love to see Pat Hankin back in a Blue Jays uniform.
Yeah. For me, it's tough because I don't drink at all because of personal issues with alcohol in my family. So it's tough. It's tough to talk about this specific topic. For Edmontonians, we had a scenario with this in the mid 80s with Craig McTavish, who actually killed somebody. Okay. So that's the hardcore end of this, is that in 1984, he was drunk, killed somebody. Mm-hmm. And that is honestly where this could be. So I'm going to talk about it from the perspective of like, maybe this was the best thing that could have happened for Pete Walker. A little bit of public embarrassment. He has to look to his family, has to say, this happened to me, right? And he has to address this with nobody getting hurt.
A wake-up call, if you will. Because
here in Edmonton, somebody died. He got a 1-year sentence, and then Craig McTavish was back with the team, managing with the team, and nobody ever talks about it. Okay. We forget about things like that, and this was somebody who killed somebody drunk driving. Okay. Whose career is, nobody brings this up. Nobody does. You guys from like Scott, and you're from Alberta, Adam, you're from Alberta. It's not talked about. Right. So from a perspective of this being like an absolute warning call in you're embarrassed, your job is put on a teeter-totter position on whether you're going to have your job tomorrow. Hopefully that's the best thing that can happen to him personally, and that he moves on from this personally. As Craig said, the ultimate fear would be him going to the Yankees instantly, because the Yankees don't care. The Yankees don't care.
No, it's true. They've proven time and time again they don't care.
They don't care. So that's, as you make that cut of Pete Walker, he's working for the Yankees tomorrow. So understand that, because they do not care. They only care about your facial hair. That's all they care about. So
yeah. Are you clean shaven?
Yeah, that's where you have to be clean, not in your life, on your face.
All right.
So you're talking about Craig McTavish.
You guys think there's a bit of chat going on? People in chat are wondering if you think that this could compare to, in terms of punishment, to Reese McGuire, to that level.
It's different though, right? Like it's just such an apples to oranges.
Yeah, Reese McGuire put his life in danger.
Right, I agree.
Yeah, but Louis C.K. didn't put anybody's life in danger, and his life was ended too. So right, it's weird how the judgment calls on all these things are all lumped into the same kind of category, right?
CK ruined other people's lives. Reese McGuire, that's all. So, and where did we come, by the way, where we're talking about where Reese McGuire did, and here I am defending it. Like, well, what just happened on the show, by the way? But
Greg, now you know how I feel when I get painted into a corner where I'm defending the owners and agents. It's man, yeah, it's weird to be put in a position like that for sure. Yeah, I don't know. It is a big apples to oranges comparison though. Any of this off-field shenanigans and discretions are it's touchy. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out. I think you guys brought up some good points though about how swiftly the Blue Jays have acted in the past with once a decision comes down, gone regardless. Ties get severed pretty quickly. So that is a consideration just if we're talking about like precedent being set, right? Like Ainsley was saying, right? Like if that is the precedent that the Blue Jays are rolling with where, hey, if you're going to, fuck up and let's not bullshit ourselves here. What he did, regardless of what he's going through in his personal life or wherever whatever the issue is, drinking and driving, that was a big fuck up. So whatever the price he's going to ultimately pay, I think, Joel, you summed it up well, that like he didn't kill anyone. So regardless of the price that Pete Walker ends up paying, probably a best case scenario.
He wins this one. Yeah, exactly.
And hopefully he learns from it and we can all move on. So I guess let's just end this with one last thought here. 82 in a 45 is what he was doing. So can we all agree from here on out, any 82 mile an hour pitch, we just call a Pete Walker this year?
Oh, man.
Oh, no.
Craig's like, no.
That's a bridge too far for Craig. Okay.
Good Lord. This whole segment, brutal. I was literally just making a mental note that I'm going to have to check the comments on the replay of this because it's going to be flooded with, boy, that bald guy is pro masturbation. Wow.
Remember when you said Reese McGuire's a hero earlier on? You don't remember?
Oh,
role model for children, I think, is what Craig said was the direct quote. So. Right.
Surprised we didn't do a Reese's Pieces joke in there somewhere.
Yeah. Keep them coming.
I'm glad we didn't. I'm glad
I did. I just did. I just ruined
it.
All right. Let's move on, folks. New York had a vaccination rules problem, I suppose, for athletes. And there was a lot of question marks around whether particular New York Mets and New York Yankees would be able to play any home games this year with the restrictions in New York City, or in the state of New York, I suppose. But sounds like there is an exemption coming in, so athletes will get to play. There is still no exemption, however, for for athletes coming to play in Toronto and crossing the border. So as of today, if you want to play against the Blue Jays in Toronto, you've got to be vaccinated across the border. So let's just start with, I mean, we don't have to get into the merits of a rule, but how long do we think this rule is going to last? Is it going to be a factor all season long? Because I kind of feel like it's not going to be. I feel like it's going to be kind of a non-issue by the time we even get to it. But Scott, where do you?
I think it will be an issue.
Yeah.
I think it will be an issue. I think that this rule is going to last until at least June, July. I do think that this is a rule that is probably going to be lifted eventually, but it might last until the end of September. Like, it could last all season. And it sure has been annoying being online and listening to Yankees media and, Red Sox fans and just them whining about how unfair this is. And there was even a few takes of guys being like, hey, when this competitive balance problem, Toronto shouldn't even be allowed to play in Toronto, which is just like, okay. Like, the biggest disadvantage Toronto's had this whole offseason is they haven't been able to even talk to unvaccinated players because they do absolutely no good for this team, right? Like, if you can't play for your home team, what good is it? They've had to deal with it on their end of things. It's the same rule, by the way, for Canadians going to the U.S. Mm-hmm. You need to be vaccinated. So Toronto's only advantage, the Blue Jays' only advantage, is that all of their players are vaccinated. They're all playing by the rule. I don't know. I just get so frustrated with the spin on it of it's unfair for the other teams.
Yeah, I mean, I'm exhausted by this whole topic. I mean, I know pandemic fatigue is the term that gets thrown about, and like, boy, do I ever have it.
Yeah,
Baseball-
I didn't think this would be the topic to cleanse the Pete Walker palate. That I'd be like, oh, I'm so glad to talk vaccinations.
Yeah, let's get refocused and talk vaccinations. Yeah, I don't know. Sports and politics don't mix, but sometimes they end up mixing, and this feels like one of those situations. But I don't know. Baseball, I just want it to be an escape. I don't want to talk about Russian baseball players and where their stance is on Putin, and I don't want to talk about the vaccine. I just want to get back to baseball. But I don't know. Do you guys see this as a major advantage now that the 9 home games a year that the AL East plays in Toronto? Do you think that's substantial? Is it something to complain about over the course of 162? Joel, looks like you're.
I was just going to say that if we played at home last year for the entire season, would we have been in the playoffs?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Like,
So
we missed
so
it
don't
by
we
one
have the
game,
ultimate
so
gripe?
Yeah, exactly.
So don't we have a gripe that we say, hey, listen, if we had this to our favor, which was just like what everybody else got last year, which we didn't get, we would have been in the playoffs. We probably would have won the World Series. We're talking about a World Series that was deprived from us for not being there. So we've got the ultimate gripe, right? We can make that gripe. We go, oh, a World Series was stolen from us. What's your complaint? Is that whatever you have to fall into that scenario where you were screwed over because Aaron Judge didn't make it up here and strike out 4 times in a game.
I'm with Joel. I'm grabbing my pitchfork. Let's get him.
If you want to come at us, we have the World Series to say that, that was stolen from us.
Look, I'm going to use this argument with every COVID conversation I have with every family member who complains about a grandparent that died in an old folks' home. I'm going to say, yeah, but I had a World Series taken away from me. So, you didn't get to meet your nephew for 6 months after he was born? Well, too bad. I had a World Series taken away from me.
You've got 8 nephews. You know how many World Series I have?
Everybody saw Shapiro's comments on it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Refresh my memory here on this one, Mark. Do you have it pulled
So
up?
Sports Illustrated wrote some article, I think, about how the Jays have this competitive advantage. And Shapiro, I've got the quote up. He said, "You got to be friggin' kidding me. How about the competitive disadvantage of not being able to sign players that aren't vaccinated? How about playing half your season in Dunedin in Buffalo at a competitive disadvantage?" But nobody was writing that from the U.S.
Yeah, that's
Same thing that you were saying, or Joel.
Yeah, my point is pretty much you can't judge a team for the situation that their government has put them under. They have to follow the rules, right? There's either that or there's no baseball. So we have to follow the rules until this thing's over, and we can't really just if we're not going to complain, then let's just let it go until it's over. We just have to wait it out. That's all we can do.
Yeah, I think if there was a trade, like if there was the trade-off to be made, though, I don't think a single team in baseball would say, yeah, I would rather either not have my best guys for the 9 games I'm in Toronto, or I would rather play 70 of my home games in a AA stadium. I think that's a trade most teams would make in a heartbeat. So
I don't want to justify the whining of U.S. teams in regards to their players not being able to play in Canada. I think that probably where that comes from is just that Toronto, the Jays are the only Canadian team, and if they weren't in the league, then people can go on with their vax or unvaxxed status if they're all just playing in the U.S. for the most part. So I think that's, but I don't think they're arguing it correctly. I think if you get down to it, that's the beef. The beef is all the teams are here. Toronto's in Canada. Now that's the one issue. Anyway, that's my take.
It's not really a World Series if you don't have a second country.
Well, there you go.
all right, let's move on from there. Mark, do you have another thing for us from Discord?
We had a question in chat. Do you want to?
Yeah, from YouTube. Yeah,
asking, do the Jays have too much of a power-centric lineup?
That's a really
Thoughts on
good
that?
question. Who sent that in, Mark?
There's been a lot of chat. I think this was. I can't
God,
remember.
I hope this is a
Darren.
silly name.
Yeah. Okay. Nice.
All right.
No, it's a good comment.
Power-centric lineup. I mean, no, we got Tapia now, right? No power. That cancels it all out. So he brings the power average down by at least 15% per batter. So I think we're good.
Perfect transition into Tapia, by the way.
All right. Well, before we get to Tapia, let's talk this lineup for a second. Obviously, right-handed heavy, a lot of power in the lineup. Joel, where do you feel about this lineup? Because I feel like we do have a lot of power, but we don't have a lot of
I don't
low
see
average
power. Yeah, I don't see power centric. Like Vladdy he hits a lot of home runs, but he hits 300. You know, Bo hits a lot of home runs, but he hits 300. Teoscar hit 290 something last year.
298.
Lourdes's career batting average is 280. Springer, like the place where if you are the bad kind of power focus, I guess it would be Chapman, because Chapman struck out 200 times last year. So it's like a really give or take strikeout for home run situation. But like Vladdy, how many times did he strike out last year? Like 100? The Bo 130. Like Springer might get up there a little bit. Like, but for the most part, their production comes with a pretty solid, ball to bat contact. So they have power, but they're great hitters at the same time. So I wouldn't say overly power centric.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Craig, how about yourself?
Other side of this coin, gentlemen. I don't think there's any doubt about it. We talked last week about innings 1 through 6. This Blue Jay lineup last season was historic. One of the best offenses in the history of baseball. Innings 7 through 9 was one of the worst offenses in the history of baseball. And that's because when you're home run or bust, those relievers throwing gas coming in the 7th, 8th, and 9th inning are no match for you. And the Blue Jays are way too home run or bust. It's why I am a proponent for Santiago Espinal. Espinal is going to hit the ball where it's pitched. He can help manufacture runs. The Blue Jays, Charlie Montoyo wouldn't have the first clue how to manufacture a run if we sat beside him and showed him how to manufacture a run. So it's got to be up to the hitters, and their approach is way too home run or bust. I was absolutely stunned and disappointed that they retained and brought back the hitting coach this season, because I think it's way too home run or bust on this team.
That's a really interesting thought on. I like Espinal, and I'm curious how you feel about. Do you think they're going to be platooning righty lefty Espinal Bigio and similar? Like they're both kind of offensively similar players, right? Like they both aren't power heavy guys. Bigio more of a walk type of guy than Espinal is, but both of them put the ball in play all over the field. I don't know. Maybe we see them. Do you think they split time, or do you think it's Espinal's given the job and Bigio's going to be more the utility guy?
No, I really think they're going to split time. I think they're going to give both a chance at second base. I would have either one of them hitting in that 9 spot. They both get on base. Imagine a world where we've got a man on base as you turn the lineup over for the Springer, Bo, and Vlad gauntlet. So absolutely, I think they're both going to be in there. They're both going to the Jays are going to be looking to get both of these guys 400 to 450 at bats this season. The Jays are in win now mode. There's no doubt about it, but they have to see, and I think want to see, and may I add, I think they're excited to see what they've got in Bigio and Espinal. So I think they'll be looking for places to give these guys at bats. Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, I like the idea of having our pseudo leadoff man hitting 9th. You can't have Cavan Bigio hitting first in your lineup, but it sure is nice to have a guy on base when that
top of the order rolls
comes
around,
yeah. Right? Like, oof. All right. Let's scroll here. Well, okay, we got Cavan Bigio as a topic next, so let's just roll right into him, shall we? So Cavan Bigio, there's been some hot takes on both sides, as Scott mentioned. Some think he's an everyday player. Some think the Jays won't feel much of a dip in second base production with the Simeon departure. So where is everyone on Cavan Bigio? Is he a bum? Is he a bust? Is he the best thing since sliced bread? Ainsley, where is your love for Cavan Bigio?
I'm on the train. Obviously, if he can stay healthy. I saw that when Hazel posted that he had some shoulder tightness or something, people lost their minds, which I thought was kind of funny because they're like, "Oh, here it is again." I'm like, hold on. But I'm on the train. I think there's something to be said about having something to prove, especially after last season.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm here for it. I think that he's going to seize the opportunity.
I love it. Donald, Blue Jays dad, how about yourself?
Yeah, I'm a Bigio believer. I think he's going to have a great year if he stays healthy and has an opportunity to play. I do like the idea of a platoon and begin to promote who is doing better over time. Just a quick look. 2019, he had a 364 on base percentage with 16 home runs in only 430 plate appearances. Following year, 375 on base percentage, and then that dropped to 322 last season with, of course, an injury-riddled campaign. So I expect if he's healthy, I love the player, but if we ever did have to trade him, one of the scenarios I thought about was that, hey, could we get the Houston Astros to overpay for him?
Yeah, he's got the that's what Astros royalty in his blood, doesn't he?
Mm-hmm.
I like that. Yeah,
I think Craig Bigio's still involved with the Astros in a back office.
He is. Did you see that last year? Was it last season or the season before where Bigio hit a home run and Chris couldn't celebrate?
Yeah,
he had to stay in his seat, and his mom celebrated. But
it was like on Mother's Day or something, right?
He couldn't applaud for the opposing team.
That's wild.
I think one thing to mention about Bigio too is he had never played third base until 2021, and he's a super versatile guy in the field, and so the front office kind of just threw him to the wolves. They kind of figured, well, he could play everything else. He could obviously play third, and I think he proved pretty heavily that the hot corner is not a place that we want to see him too often over the rest of his career. But I think that him having a little stability in the lineup and having second base kind of being like, okay, this is your position. Yes, we're going to play a little in right. We're going to play a little in left. But for the most part, you're going to play second base. I think it's going to do wonders for him so that he's not on top of fighting an injury and moving position. Now he just can concentrate on not swinging at that high fastball, right?
Well, and yep. Cavan Bigio is going to play into 2022 Blue Jays in a big way, one way or the other, either what we're talking about or as a trade piece. What stood out to I've never seen a general manager go out of his way to bring up a player, if you've noticed, like Atkins with Bigio. They're talking about anything. Ross, what'd you have for breakfast today? McDonald's Egg McMuffin. You know who put me onto those? Cavan Bigio. Now, I've never, out of nowhere, he's bringing up Cavan Bigio left, right, and center. So the Blue Jays are either completely enamored with him and still very much see this as a three-headed monster, Vlad, Bo, and Bigio, or there's some interest around the league because people think what we think. People around the league think what we think, that last season he was not healthy at all. Last season was not at all indicative of who he is. What Blue Jays dad just told us, those seasons is indicative of who he is. So one way or the other, Cavan Bigio is going to figure into the 2022 Blue Jays.
Kind of the reverse psychology thing, like when you have 3 popsicles and you need to give 2 of them to your siblings, and you're like, "Oh, I hate grape. I hope, boy, oh boy, don't nobody take grape." But look at how good the blue is.
But still, drop the blue on the ground. I know, but look at it. But still, look.
Yeah. But the blue gets on first base a lot, right?
Well, you know what's funny? Hey, we've already seen a couple at bats this preseason, guys, in spring training. A couple where Bigio started 0-2, and what's the end result? Ball 4. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's already happened a couple times.
Somebody tell Cleveland.
One thing to say to that, and then we'll throw to Joel here. There is like such an underappreciated, from a fan perspective, I think that the front office is well aware of this, but there is like such real value in just the ability, regardless of how the at-bat ends, in being able to draw out a long at-bat, right? To like a 2-pitch single is nice, but a 9-pitch strikeout is also pretty darn helpful. Like, just in terms of, we get to the bullpen one inning earlier, or, the guy behind you just gets that little extra longer look, or whatever the case. And I just feel like when Bigio's healthy and focused and on point, not only is he walking a lot, but he's also, and Bichette is another guy too, that really it just has that ability to intentionally foul off a pitch that he doesn't want, and wait for that next one, wait for that pitcher to make the mistake. So I'm super high on Bigio too. Joel, how about yourself?
Well, with Bigio, he's got Major League Baseball's best chase rate, right? So especially when you bring, like we were talking earlier about how changes come so quickly now to baseball, right? So if robot umpires are in supposedly after the 2023 season, right? Yeah. You got the best eye in baseball there. So how many more walks does he get when he's not getting screwed over on any pitches that he knows that are outside? And that's another thing about Cavan Bigio is you sit there and that pitch that's outside that he knows is a ball, he sits there and they call it a strike and he goes, well, I know what that is, but you don't. So, the bat slightly changes because the umpire's eye isn't as good as Cavan Bigio's eye. The other thing is that he is, not only do I see him as a platoon player, but I see him in the lineup some days with Espinal when we are healthy, in a situation where he can go out and he can play right field, he can go play left field. And then, that he's almost a rotating DH spot, because I'm not saying play him every day at third base, but if Chapman needs a day off, plug in Bigio. Throw him in at second, throw him in the outfield, and that on base percentage follows him everywhere he goes. And he runs. He's one of the best. When he gets on base, he knows when to run. He's caught once in his first 25 tries. And so that's, as a manager, you look at Cavan Bigio and you see a guy that you can plug in situationally. You can plug him in for a full day, and he gives you different things that everybody else really doesn't give you, especially with that lefty bat. So I think there's a lot of opportunity for Cavan.
He's such a different type of player than you see on this lineup too, right? Like, he's really offering a different look to pitchers wherever you put him in that lineup in comparison to, I also don't think it's, it is a power-centric lineup, so, giving a little bit different look here and there.
Mentally, where do you think you are as a pitcher in that situation where you're 0-2 to Cavan Bigio in the 9-hole, and then you walk him, right? Where are you mentally? You're like, oh, like Craig said, now I got to go through Springer, Bichette, Guerrero, Teoscar, all over again with somebody on base. So it's just like, that is a frustration thing. How many pitching changes does that lead to? Because, Cavan turned it over.
A little off topic here, but one thing I couldn't help but think when you were bringing up the robo-umps is I wonder if walking, which is already a fairly valuable skill set, will be a skill set that more and more players become dominant at, because there isn't that human aspect of getting anything wrong. So if you can develop that eye that literally can just tell if that curveball is going to drop just a little bit low, and all of a sudden you have that ability to lay off pitches that a lot of other players aren't doing, because in a lot of cases, being that fine with it actually probably hurt a guy like Bigio, right? Like, he'd wind up taking pitches that were a little bit outside, but he'd get called strikes, and it would be frustrating to him.
Do you remember at the beginning of last season where he was trying to jump on first pitches? He was trying to follow in suit of Bigio or of Bichette and Guerrero and being really aggressive early in the count, which it just doesn't play to his game at all, because his game is working those borderline pitches that he knows are balls. And I think that played into effect, that he was trying to be something different, but we don't need him to be something different. When he's healthy and when he's playing great, that 375, 380 on base percentage as a left-handed batter that you can put in anywhere in the lineup, not in the lineup, but defensively, it's so valuable on this team, especially what does Cavan Bigio cost?
Well, and that's a great point too, right? Is because, as much as we would all love to just field an absolute juggernaut all-star team, you can't have 15 players making $30 million on your team, right? Like, you do need the Lourdes Gurriel Jr. You do need the Cavan Bigio, the guy who, you can pay $5 million to play second base for you so that you can afford to pay old Vladdy over there $45 million, right? Like, it might end up being the best thing possible for the Blue Jays that Cavan struggled when he did, because if he was putting up numbers like Bo Bichette for these first 3 seasons he's been in the major leagues, like we'd be having a totally different conversation about him. How do we keep him, right? Like, how do we make this work? Whereas right now, I don't know.
And his skills are very overshadowed on this team, right? Like his skills are overshadowed by Bo and Vladdy, whose production is like obvious. You know, Bo hits a 2-run walk-off home run and he flips his hair around third base, and you can't help but see that, right? Cavan is the opposite baseball player, right? His dad taught him to be, you know, don't cheer for your son when he hits a home run in his home ballpark in front of his mom. Don't do that, right? There's a polar opposite mindset there.
Yeah,
Blue Jays' dad, does Bo Bichette flip his hair when he rounds third?
He does. I'm trying to think of something quick and witty to say, but I can't. Except for, I mean, he's got the range. Baseball is his favorite toy, and he gets his body around and in front of that ball to stop it. Amazing. Since the day one he was here, he's been an amazing. He's got the instincts.
That's great. All right. Mark, I know there's some stuff being talked about in the YouTube chat here. We got a little bit of breaking news. Do you want to get that out there?
Yeah, it sounds like Ketel Marte has been locked up by the Diamondbacks, 5 years, $76 million, I think it was.
Wow, good move on their part.
Yeah.
So that might not be a trade target for us anymore.
I would say it's not.
I'd say it's not.
We'll just go with Bo.
Let's go with Bo. Absolutely. All right.
Look at the Diamondbacks not trying to tank anymore. Good for them. Rest in peace, tanking seasons for the Diamondbacks, 2018 to 2021.
All right.
That seems cheap to me. Let's Bo $15 million a year. Is that a discount?
Yeah. That does feel...
They kind of included the 2 arbitration years, I think, is what happened there.
True.
Oh, yeah. All right. Well, let's talk now pitchers. Blue Jays fans who remember Aaron Sanchez, when you mentioned blisters, wake up with a cold sweat. Kevin Gausman is in the news right now for blisters of his own on his splitter. He wears them like a badge of honor, though. And this is something that he's dealt with dating back to his time in San Francisco. So Kevin Gausman, our shiny new toy out there on the mound, deals with blisters from his splitting ball. So is this a concern? Is this a non-issue? Craig, let's start with you.
It is a non-issue because we catch him at the perfect time. If you see his regime with this right now, my God, he knows the absolute ins and outs. He's got the right glue for his fingernail. Like, he knows the ins and outs. And I'm so fascinated by this story and hearing him talk about it, because it's so interesting to me to have a physical tell like that. 99 out of 100 pitchers need to go back and watch the game film to know, how was my stuff looking? Ask the catcher, how did it look back there? He knows just from, hey, is this blister excruciating? Okay, congratulations on my 7 innings, 2-hit shutout.
Yeah.
It's incredible. It's incredible. And you're so right, Adam, to the cold sweat, the comparison to Aaron Sanchez, but this is just such a night and day difference. Aaron Sanchez was completely in the dark. He didn't have a clue how to not handle, but how to what's the word I want to look for here? Work through it, fight through it, roll with those punches. Kevin Gausman has this thing down to a science. It's actually to the point, if you can believe it, where he very much views it as a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
I know, before I read the article, because he hasn't missed a start because of it. So obviously fine with that. But before I read the article, I was ready to throw hands. I'm like, how many starts did Sanchez miss? How many and how many times did we have to just cringe because it came back? And even just seeing how much he went through, with the skin grafts and he tried everything. So seeing the comparison, fascinating story. With the whole he's clipping it in the locker room. This man spends more money on his nails than I do, for sure. By a long shot. I think that it is a really fascinating story. It would be worrisome if we were talking about how cool it was and he missed a bunch of starts. But if that's a non-issue and he's takes pride in it and he's working it, obviously it's fine.
What a great point. You know, he made more starts than anybody. Well, like, with this splitter kicking ass. That's such a great point. Now, Ainsley, your nail coming to the shot a few times, so nobody believes that he pays more than your nails, but still really still good points.
He throws a better splitter than her too.
I don't know. I see a pretty good splitter when we were out there playing blitzball.
I was going to mention that I think I was more worried when Dickey was coming in and if the knuckleball would work in the dome than this. The other thing is that with I don't know how to say it. With Gausman, one of the things that I liked about Gausman was that he wasn't using foreign substance last year. Like I didn't make too many videos about guys. These guys are not using foreign substance, right? I did one about Robbie Ray. I did one about Danny Duffy, and I did one about Kevin Gausman. So when I heard Kevin Gausman's coming over, I'm like, okay, all the effects of his pitches are naturally, that's a natural spin rate. And the other thing that comes to my mind is like, well, I guess you better keep Ohtani at about 112 limit mark because you don't want that splitter blistering out his finger. And Kikuchi coming in gives the Blue Jays the opportunity to 6-day the rotation. So also that comes in, it's great for Ryu, but if Gausman's having some issues with his fingers, that extra arm in the rotation will help any issue that comes, which don't seem to come. So, I don't think there's anything to be worried about.
The fact he figured it out is so it just builds confidence, I'm just like, oh, phew. Because, really, it is insane how many incredible pitchers have lost substantial time and even arguably their careers to blisters, right? So it's never something you hear where you're like, oh, it's fine. Like, it's tough not to worry about it. But absolutely, I'm with Ainsley where, after reading the article that, who was it? Was it Arden Zwelling, I think, wrote it? Either way, friend of the show, I think is pretty safe to say.
Arden Zwelling, by the way, I saw a picture of him at spring training in a T-shirt, and he is jacked.
I saw that too.
He's got some big old muscles on his arms. So shout out to Arden Zwelling. Yeah. Look at the T-shirt there, Arden. Huh? What's that, Greg?
I think that was Santiago Espinal. Did you confuse them?
Yeah, both guys looking good. All right. Mark, do you have anything else from Discord for us?
We got a fun one here.
Okay.
Somebody's saying they just saw the new Batman movie. Has anybody else seen it? Where do you rank it in all-time Batman movies? I have seen it.
I have seen it. Who else has seen it? The new Batman with Ainsley. All right. So between the three of us, was it good? I loved it myself.
I loved it. It was good.
I liked it, but I wasn't. I thought I'd like it more than I did.
It felt like Batman Forever, is what you're saying.
I like the old ones. I like Jim Carrey and like Michael Keaton and all those ones.
No, I loved it. I thought it was a bit long. I hate to say this. I would have preferred it was like a 10-episode series on HBO. But I think it was great. I loved it. But I think all three of the Nolan Batmans were still better. So
I agree.
Everyone keeps saying it's darker. Like, how can Batman continually get darker? Is it actually darker?
It's very dark. Yeah.
Okay.
Like, I don't know. It's really good though. It's really good. 10 out of 10. I would recommend it for sure.
Okay.
All right. Let's move on.
Matt Reeves is a great director. He did all the Planet of the Apes stuff. He's one of the really good directors that are actually still out there. So, yeah. I haven't seen the movie, but I know Matt Reeves.
Nice.
My only comment on Batman is that the Adam West Batman seems way less torn up about the murder of his parents than the subsequent Batman. That's different.
Yeah. He handled it so well.
Yes. Well, he had Robin with him, right? So I think the takeaway is that surround yourself with good people and you can get through anything.
Now, I'll just expose myself as a moron because I haven't seen any of these. I'm not in your tax bracket. I can't afford to go to movies. Are you absolutely telling me that it's not Batman and Robin anymore?
I don't want any spoilers out there, so I will not comment on that, Craig.
Okay.
The last time Robin came into the series, they tanked Batman for almost a decade. So.
Wow. Okay.
Poor Chris O'Donnell.
Yeah. Or Mr. Freeze.
All right, so let's get back to baseball now. Randall, a.k.a. Blake Gritchick, is now a Rocky. For anybody that doesn't know what I'm talking about, there was a picture of his first appearance in spring training with the Rockies, and they had him up on the Jumbotron as Blake Gritchick. So, evil version of Randall Gritchick. But he's gone. Sad to say.
Nice. Thanks, Joel.
New lock screen.
How's everyone
Still
feel?
gorgeous, Lo. Look at that.
Yeah,
man.
look at that face.
I know. Get your looks in. Quit drooling, Ainsley. She really leaned into the camera, didn't she? All
I
right.
feel like
So
Joel's drooling.
the real question here is, who's the new hot guy on the Blue Jays? Now that we're Gritchickless.
I mean, Greg Bird, right, everybody? It's got to be Greg Bird.
Greg Bird. Yeah, I guess Greg
Bringer.
Bird. I didn't think he was too much of a hunk until Scott sent a nice little picture of him to me, and I just thought, wow, those dimples and that stubble, like,
Yeah.
he probably gets all the action at the backyard barbecues and the. Anyways, I'm getting off topic here. Where is this team outfield wise now? So we got Lourdes in left, we got George in center some of the time, half of the time, and Teoscar in right field, and then we got bat flip Tapia as our fourth outfielder. So
Tapia.
Tapia, thank you. Is this an upgrade? Is this a lateral move? Ainsley,
I want to start with Craig. I want to hear what Craig's got to
all
say
right,
so
let's start
bad.
with Craig.
I am meh on this entire thing. Lately, we have seen the Toronto Blue Jays bring in Hyun-Jin Ryu, George Springer. You've seen what they've done this offseason. In trade talks for Jose Ramirez, like big ticket items have been happening for the Toronto Blue Jays, and the fan base is asking me to get excited about a fourth outfielder being swapped for a fourth outfielder. I am absolutely mad. Andrew Stoughton, I always say his name wrong. You guys will correct me. How do you say his name?
Stoughton, yeah.
I thought he put it best. He said Tapia sucks, but he sucks in a different way than Gritchick sucked. So maybe there's some there. And Adam, this is the dictionary definition of what you talked about last week. The Jays have to get a left-handed bat. Well, what if it's a left-handed bat just to have a left-handed bat? Don't we want wouldn't we rather have a good righty up there? That's exactly what we here. The Blue Jay fan base keeps telling me the next one. So spoiler alert, folks. No, it's not, or anywhere close to it. This is a meh move. Very much. This guy's been in the big leagues for 6 years. His career WAR is 0.4. It's almost hard to be that bad, guys. It's almost hard to be that unproductive. This was a nothing move. I hate to be the Debbie Downer. This was a nothing.
So I will take a little bit of a different approach on this from what Craig is saying. However, I do feel very strongly about this is a fourth outfielder, flip for fourth outfielder. How excited am I supposed to be? I do understand what the front office is trying to do here. And very much like Craig just said, right? Andrew Stoughton put it best that Tapia sucks in a way that's going to be more productive for the Blue Jays than the redundancy of how Randall Gritchick sucked, right? Which is he hits ground balls and he hits, I think his 70% ground ball rate and an 83% contact rate. So, like, he does put the ball in play, which is something that maybe does have value in a scenario. Let's say the ghost runner's on second base. You want to start the runner. You know you got a guy in Tapia who can come up and 83% of the time at least put the ball in play, which is something Gritchick didn't do, right? I don't know. I see the value, but again, yeah, like if I'm supposed to be excited about it, sorry guys, not happening.
Joel?
Yeah, it's back and forth with me. Like I wasn't that much of a Gritchick hater. I thought when Springer went down, Gritchick comes in and it's boom or bust. It's nothing. It's a strikeout or it's a home run. But sometimes that can carry you when he's hot, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so there is that aspect of Gritchick that Tapia does not have. He's not going to come in and he's got 19 career home runs where Gritchick had 24 last year. So you're getting something very different in Tapia. I don't think you see that much of a drop though, like you said, because of his contact numbers. He's a 280 hitter probably wherever he goes because he's not hitting the ball in the air. So that is something else. It is speed. It's more of a situation where I think when you look at Gurriel, Springer, and Teoscar, And you can plug in Tapia potentially in center field or in any of those outfield positions. Keep those 3 outfielders in the game. One just shifts to DH. And you've got a guy who you're comfortable having out there running into the walls, like sacrificing his body like that. He's an outfielder where you don't mind that type of you don't mind him putting out that type of effort in the outfield. Whereas Springer, you're like, oh, he's going onto the warning track. Oh no, so I think it's a give and take. It is. It's that different kind of suck for a different kind of suck. But I don't know. It's if they feel like they can get more production out of it, like you said, because of that contact rate. And Tapia does have speed, so it is a situation where he can be if you've got almost like with their 2 lefty guys, if you have one of them in the lineup, the other one can serve as a really serviceable backup runner. If it's Cavan running late in the game, or if it's Tapia running late in the game, it's 2 guys who have a little bit of ability to move around the base pass. So
not that Grishik was ever a guy, though, that everyone was like, oh, he's so slow, right? Like Grishik, he was by no means a speedster, but he also wasn't a guy. He covered a lot of ground in center field. He did
Kirk of the outfield is what we call him.
Yeah, and I think Tapia could steal you a base. He is a guy who's got that check mark next to him. It's like, hey, you need a stolen base. He can come in for specifically that reason. So,
problem with that, Joel.
Mm-hmm.
Charlie Montoya is never going to try to manufacture a run that way, but I still hear you. You're still making a valid point. The big thing about this trade, it frees up $5 million next year, and Bo Bichette's situation. So I think they're going to earmark that money for Bo's big raise. So I do get it, but I'm just right there with Scott. The Blue Jay fan base was asking me to be as excited as we've been about these previous moves, and it's just not happening.
How about you, Bernard, Blue Jay's dad? I'm going to guess your name correctly one of these times. Where do you stand?
It's Mr. Blue Jay's dad to you. Hey,
yes, sir.
Once again, I was not into the Blue Jays needing a left-handed bat. I just don't. I'm not into that. If they can get the job done by a right-handed batter, that's fine. In this situation, looks like if the player is less exposed, he does better. Looks like in 2020, he had a low amount of at-bats, comparatively speaking. And his on-base percentage was pretty high that year. Hopefully, he can take advantage of being in a lineup where he's probably going to see a lot of strikes. And, if he can stay within himself and, have a good year. A lot of the highlights I saw when they had the compilation of highlights of him, there was a lot of bunting going on. I did hear from Rockies fans, but a week before that deal was made, they were saying, hey, you should get this guy. This is who you need as a left-handed bat. He would be a great addition, not in some major significant way, but with answering a need that the Jays had. But once again, I don't care about left-handed bats. And I agree. I think we need John Gibbons back to manufacture a run, don't we, Craig?
Hey, everybody. Good seeing you guys this week.
All right.
Well, actually, guys.
Sorry, go ahead, Blue Jays dad.
Well, I was going to say that I do got to get back to my family, but I've really enjoyed being on this. Love to be on again.
Definitely.
And but it's great. I always feel better being that I'm better from listening to everybody. So thank you for all the insights and opinions and everything.
Thanks so much for taking the time. Really appreciate having you, man.
Thanks for coming.
All right, we'll see you. Have a great week.
All right, cheers.
Before we move on here, Adam, I do want to just bring something up about Tapia really quick. And that is all the attention that has been given him for the home runs he has hit, which if you aren't aware, he has hit it off Scherzer, off of DeGrom.
Nolan Ryan.
There's a list of yeah, exactly. And everyone's like, oh, when he's being pitched to by a really good pitcher, he just can buckle down, right? But I just want to say, I feel like it's more flippant the other way, right? Like, these top-end pitchers are like, it's Tapia, right? And then they let down, right?
Yeah, no, that's a great point. I just wanted to add to what Blue Jays dad there, Donald, was saying before he left. I do think, I don't care about a left-handed bat. I don't think that's a negligible difference maker to us. But we were talking about Cavan Bigio earlier. in the show, and having him in there at ninth, right, as like a pseudo leadoff man. And I think Tapia chalks in a similar fashion, where like the games where he is playing, whether it's center field or given to Oscar, whatever the case, whoever he's given an off day to, right, we just pencil him in there at ninth. He can be the high on base percentage guy. I think he's gonna have to get some decent pitches, because every pitcher is gonna know, well, I can't walk this guy because he's got speed. And then up next we've got murderer's row, as everybody likes to call a nice hitting lineup, right? So I don't know. I do think that there is value in that. We also talked, is this too much of a power centric lineup? And I don't think any of us think it is. But that's the redundancy that Grichuk brought, right? Was like, well, he's the least powerful in a powerful lineup. So like, how bad do you really need what Randall Grichuk brings to the table? I suppose you don't need a sac fly when you have no base runners, right?
I just don't want to see power replaced by outs, So like obviously too power centric is something to concern yourself about, but I don't want to see this team become less redundant, but then still just see outs and them not put up runs. So I'm all for the way this lineup is built. I think that a little bit of diversity with a guy like Tapia isn't a bad thing. And even seeing a guy like Greg Bird, maybe he winds up making this team as a bench player, especially now that the lineups are 28 players to start the season, because the season's so wild this year. So,
You know what's concerning, though?
Go ahead, Mark.
I've heard he's a poor defensive outfielder, right? So I like Tapia as a fourth outfielder, or like our fourth outfielder off the bench. I think the tools that he provides are better for the Jays than what Randall Grichuk does as a fourth outfielder. But the day George Springer goes down again, and we got to put Tapia in the outfield right beside Lourdes Gurriel Jr., I'm not looking forward to that.
And it's a great point, Mark. And I'll tell you, if Springer goes down for an extended period of time, it will not be Tapia as the everyday center fielder. It'll be Tapia as the everyday center fielder until they bring in a center fielder. And I'll take you one step further. Yeah. On the walk-off, I've made big predictions before on the walk-off. Can't remember if they came true, so let's just pretend they all have. And they've all Tapia won't even make this team, guys. Josh Palacios will be the left-handed fourth outfielder coming out of the spring training for the Blue Jays. And the last thing I'll say about Tapia, and do make sure you've got a full stomach and you are sitting down, open up and take a look at his splits away from Coors Field. It is it's almost hard to be as bad as he's been. It is stunning.
It was an interesting move because, and Adam and I talked about this on Friday on the cast, but there's a lot of talk about the money that they're saving by moving Grichuk. But if you start doing the math, right, $9.8 million was sent to the Rockies. So the Jays are covering half or just under half of the $20 million remaining on his contract for the next 2 years. On top of that, Tapia is making just under $4 million this year, and then he's arbitration eligible next year, probably get around $5 million. So if you do, shake out all the numbers, you're saving him $1 million, $2 million. Not that doesn't have value, but it definitely wasn't a salary dump. If that's what people, some people have brought that up. That's not the case.
Is there anything to be said about the 19-year-old second baseman they picked up, Pinto?
Yeah,
I think
I've heard mixed,
that's a very Atkins
mixed results on
move.
that, but yeah, that does feel like maybe he was the real target of that trade. They do just seem to have a good feel for young guys who become something out of nowhere, right? Like, as much as we kind of had our question marks about Alejandro Kirk there earlier this week, Scott, you and I, was kind of just a nobody addition to this organization, right? Like, they were just, I don't know, but his
hype did come pretty out of nowhere, pretty out of left field. Like, he just really improved instantly, and all of a sudden Kirk was on everyone's radar. But that's how it happens. Yeah.
Well, congratulations to Scott, whose comedy tour apparently is on fire. He just poo-pooed saving $2 million. He couldn't have cared less. So
yeah.
All right. Well,
$2 million to Rogers is like $5 to Scott.
Yeah.
Oh, Lord.
Actually, when you put it in that terms, I want my $5, so I get it now.
I mean, I think $2 million in savings is a bigger deal if you're a luxury tax team, right? Like if you are right up to that luxury tax and saving $2 million gives you flexibility for an emergency bullpen arm that you need to pick up or whatever, like I do think that's a bigger deal. But if you're $150 million salary or $152 million salary, I don't think that's anybody's.
And maybe Craig's right. Like maybe this all lines up that it really was about the Rockies eating that last $10 million, that Rogers can justify $4.8 million eating that once a year for the next 2 years. And maybe we do see a Josh Palacio make this team and Tapia just full on cut. Who knows? It is a little bit more palatable to deal with, let's say, just full on putting Tapia on waivers than it would be Randall Grishik. Because you just wind up paying him, right? So maybe the fact that the Rockies were eating some of his salary is enough to move on.
And I would think it would be Malik Smith if Springer's going to miss an extended period of time. And let's get off of this quickly, right? Because that was our nightmare last. But if that does happen, I still don't even think it's going to be Tapia out there. I'm a bit of a Debbie Downer, I guess, when it comes to right now.
Well, Craig, Connor in chat just posted a follow-up to what you were saying, and he said that last year on the road, Tapia had a .293 slugging percentage.
Wow, gross.
His OPS, of course, is 600. Just by showing up for the game on time, your OPS is 650. So explain to me how the hell
Jeez.
Rymo getting no love here.
No.
Jesus. All right. Yikes.
Best way. His suck is different because, guys, you know, I see the value, especially in extra innings. If he can start as the runner on second base, I really do see some value here. Yes. Again, I'm going to go back to my main point. Look at the big ticket items the Blue Jays have already brought in and are still rumored. That's why Mark made this big news right now, the Ketel Marte. That's a big fish. That's another big fish that the Jays were in on. And there's the fan base looking at me going, Craig, where's your videos on Tapia?
We'll just go sign Conforto. Don't worry about it.
Conforto, by the way. So if Tapia is the next Juan Soto, Mark, thank you. Why are they still on Conforto, by the way?
Right. Get Conforto.
I was going to say it's going to really sting if Grichuk goes off in Colorado to the tune of like 38 home runs because he's probably going to get a lot of playing time there.
He'll get a lot.
You know, and his swing and his approach, that's a pretty good place for him to take it to. So we're probably going to be sitting here 3 months down the line, seeing him in 7th place in home runs in the National League and be like,
that'd be wild. Could happen.
Yeah, it could very well.
I'll have to read tweets from Pete and Scarborough complaining about trading Grichuk.
Yeah, that's right. The same guys on Blue Jays Twitter that have complained about Grishik for a year will be like, oh.
All right, let's. Do we have anything else? We got one more topic to get to here, Yankees related. But before we do we have any last topics there in Discord, Mark, as we get close to wrapping it up here?
We have a question here that's for Joel. Wanted to know, I think we kind of already went over this before the chat, but he wants to know what your thoughts on the Oscars are as a whole. Are people still in on award shows?
I brought this up before. I was like, what was the best picture last year? What was the best picture the year before? What was the last best picture that you remember?
Back to the Future.
Sure, right? Like
Titanic, right?
Right. That goes back to 85. That goes back to 97. I go, what's your favorite movie line of the last 10 years? Is it something that Thanos said? Because movies are just not right. Like I come from me as a screenwriter and all that stuff. My love was guys like Shane Black and Tarantino, the guys who made the dialogue pop so much, and you could just listen to a conversation, you get lost into it. I feel like storytelling has given way to telling the story that's appropriate for now, instead of it being about what's just a great story. Like that should be the only thing that matters. Should be the only thing that matters. Is it a great story, or is it a story for something specific? Are you telling something else? Is it about something else? because we've fallen into that, and I don't really know what the Oscar. That was my dream, to win an Oscar. Now it's not so much anymore. It's just to make a movie that makes people smile and they go, yeah, that was entertaining. Because the best movies are now are television series.
Agreed.
Right?
What part of this movie that you've been describing for us for weeks is set to make people smile, Kami? You've not described something to make.
You're hitting a horror movie.
When you start, think about how filmmakers start in horror. Like, Steven Spielberg started with Duel and Jaws, and Peter Jackson did a bunch of zombie movies to start. You start down there because you can scare at a lower cost than anything. To get really great comedians in, to get really great action, those are expensive. But to scare people, which is truly one of the most potent feelings that you can have in film, is cheap. Blair Witch was $30,000. Some of the cheapest, most potent films are horror that are incredibly low budget. So that's why a lot of filmmakers, that's where they start, is that area, because they know they can scare and they don't need Brad Pitt to do it.
But imagine if they did.
No. Tom Cruise.
Oh, hey, there he's there. There's my boy.
We
guy.
appreciate
What I
the
say,
peek behind the
Brad
curtain there, Joel. Thanks for that.
Yeah, and it'll be great because in like 2 months, I'll be able to give you guys a little glimpse of it. You get to see some footage, so that'll be great.
Looking forward to it. All right, so last topic of the night here, and then we'll say our goodbyes. But this one is the New York Yankees are one of the oldest clubs in baseball. Now, specifically with an eye on Aaron Judge, and that in mind, that the Yankees are old. How hard are you looking at locking up a 30-year-old Aaron Judge for big bucks long term? Joel, do you want to start with that one? Sure.
If you're the Yankees, you have to do it.
Oof.
You have to do it. You have to do it. And but to me, I can't see it as making any sense. No. As an exterior, as outside of it, I'm like, you have to get that guy. You went big on Cole, you went big on Stanton. You have to get Judge, because Judge is the fan favorite. Judge is the guy, But that's a guy who you're signing at 30 and hoping that his health rate magically turns around for 30 to 38. So,
which is something we see all the time in professional athletes,
especially in baseball.
30 and their health gets better and they get injured less. So,
but they've painted themselves. Don't get me wrong; they've got the money to put $1 billion on 3 players. That's what we're talking. We're talking about $1 billion on 3 players. $100 million a season on 3 players, where Tampa will kick their ass all the time with $70 million for their entire roster. It's not even that. What's Tampa? It's 55, 60. So but it's Brian Cashman. That's his name, right? That's his namesake. That's what he was meant to do, was to be the GM of the Yankees and spend all the money. They do have youth coming, so that will be helpful. But like, when you think about the core group that we want to build off for the next 10 years, right? Mostly that core group is 25. Let's say Manoah, Pearson, Bichette, Guerrero. All those guys are 26 and under. Yeah. Mm-hmm. What core group you've got to invest in with the Yankees are Garrett Cole is 32 this season, I believe. Stanton's 32. Judge is 29. And that's where all your money goes.
Joel, I know we were texting back and forth, and you were bringing up we mentioned earlier in the cast here even that the Blue Jays are the second youngest team in all of baseball.
Yeah, we're 26.3 years old on average.
And that's exactly what I was going to get you to bring up. So 26.3, and I know you did the math on the Yankees too, who are the second oldest team in baseball, and they're 29.4, something like that.
And that was before Donaldson.
So 3 years younger the Blue Jays are than the Yankees, and that is big. Like, that is massive.
Yeah.
And I mean, you brought up the Yankees farm system. Like,
a guy who is over that average age, right? You're forced to invest in Judge at 30, who is over that average age, right? You're investing in a guy who isn't 23. You're not doing a $300 million contract and you can't go get Soto, and you can't go get these other guys. You can't. You're kind of I don't know. The Yankees will have still $150 million beyond those 3 players to spend, but that's just a lot. It's just a lot to spend on guys who have, like, Judge's. Are we really excited about Aaron Judge's defense at 34 and 36? You know, are the strikeouts magically going to disappear? Because they haven't for any of those, for him or Stanton. You know, so it's just like you're also putting a lot of your money on guys that they either hit a home run or they strike out and they can't run when they get walked. And you don't want them to run when they get walked. And you don't want them to go dive in the outfield. But I will give you 12 years, $350 million, so you don't dive in the outfield. So you stay at first when it's a double that you might be able to leg out. You know, it's just like, I would spend on athleticism. I would spend on youth. I would spend on tools, which don't seem to matter anymore. It's just OPS, right? Like, I don't know. I
normally celebrate bumps in the road in the the Yankees stratosphere, but man, I do not envy Brian Cashman. Like, what a rock and a hard place to be in, because like Joel said, like, you have to, as the GM of the Yankees, you have to sign Judge, but also they're just going to wind up paying for the last 6 years of whatever contract they give him. Like, maybe they can avoid giving him a 10-year, but I bet you they're at least investing 7-8 years in him. So, whew.
Remember that amazing defensive 37-year-old, 6'8", 300-pound outfielder?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Yao Ming aged beautifully at the end of his basketball career.
It's just like, it's a lot of weight to carry. It's a lot. It's a lot.
The human body is designed to be that big.
I think it's great.
It's great. Give him $500 million. Let's get real. Okay, question then with Aaron Judge. I mean, the obvious solution would be, well, just make him your everyday DH, right? But then you go, oh wait, we've already got one of those.
We're already paying an everyday DH.
We've already,
$30 million
you can't
a
pay
year.
$60 million for 2 DHs, unfortunately.
It's a really difference between the Jays and the Yankees, how we don't have one.
Yeah.
Right? Like, we've gone a different way with the concept of what the DH is. It's a universal thing now, but we don't really seek that. We look at that as an opportunity to get you off your feet. And we have a lot of people on this team that we'd like to get off their feet occasionally. So that makes a lot of sense as a position. Like, the DH is either you've got David Ortiz, who's going to win your World Series with his bat, or you can use it to make your entire team better.
Here's a question, and this kind of has just popped into my head. So this isn't a fully fleshed out thought, but where do you stand, Joel, on the merits of, and I'm sure you're against this, but the possibility of Major League Baseball, maybe by the next CBA, having 2 DHs? Is that a ludicrous idea to think that would even be discussed? Because I feel like there might be some big spending teams who would love that idea.
2 DHs.
Let's
just have 9 DHs. Right?
Well, it's ridiculous.
Got the hitting side of the team and the defensive side of the team.
Maybe just for the AL then, so the NL still has a weird wrinkle. AL gets 2 DHs, NL gets 1.
It's like, I could see it if you did something. It's like, it makes sense to me when Ohtani's in the game. You know, it's like something that Ohtani has earned, that, like, you know, he's hitting in the pitcher spot. So your DH is your pitcher. So, you know, magically gift that team a DH in another spot if your pitcher is going to be hitting for you. Like, maybe that, but 2 DHs. Oh man.
Look, I know it's
rocket
stupid.
packs on the back, and I don't know if I'm there yet. I don't know if I'm on 2 DHs yet.
I'm glad. I hope it never comes. It does feel like it's definitely not baseball purist at its finest. That's for sure. So
why do they have that rule that you lose the DH, especially now that they made it universal? Why is that rule still in there if you move your DH into a position spot? Because that forces the Blue Jays to carry 3 catchers now, because they're going to want to pinch it, or DH Kirk quite often, right?
But what does
So
DH?
now they're forced. Yeah, they're forced to carry McGuire just in case Jansen gets hurt.
Greg,
but what does
you want to take this?
designated hitter? It's right in the rule. It's right in the description. You are the designated hitter. By rule, you are not to be out in the field.
Fair, I guess. I hate it.
The designated rule. The designated hitter is a flawed rule for a lot of reasons.
Fully disagree.
It's way better than watching pitchers hit. I'll tell you
You
that.
think that the DH rule is just beautifully? It's the most pristine, flawless rule in baseball.
Adam, how are you dropping a bomb like this at 7:56 p.m.?
Yeah, we're supposed to be wrapping up.
All right. Well, maybe we'll just leave that little cliffhanger then for next week, and we'll lead off with that one. All right. Thanks, everybody, again, for taking the time to join us here, whether you're listening or watching, or whether you're a panelist sitting down to talk baseball with us. Appreciate it from everyone. So let's go around the horn quickly and say our goodbyes. Craig, let's start with you. Where can everybody find you? What are you working on? I know you're busy on TikTok, especially this time of year. So what do you got going on?
Yep, on TikTok you can find me. I'm at Ainsley _McPhail. Oh no, wait a minute. I screwed that up. I'm at Craig _Ballard _Jays Talk, and on Twitter and Instagram at Craig Ballard 77. Cue the Craig. Wouldn't it be smarter to have them all? Yeah. Well, where were you when I was anyway? Yes, handles not great. But absolutely love it over on TikTok. I'm a big fan of Hey Kami and the Walkoff and Ainsley on TikTok. Big fan of Blue Jays Dad on Twitter as well. So definitely, if you've enjoyed the show today, I would very much recommend you check out some of the handles of some of the people that have been on the panel, because it's good times. I'll say that. I always enjoy coming on the Walkoff, guys. I'm just huge fans of the conversations we have each week. I'm huge fans of you guys as people. I'm 2 thumbs up over here. I'm appreciative.
I love you too, Craig. You're too sweet, and we don't deserve you as a friend. So thank you very much.
That's very true.
That's very true. Yeah.
All right, Joel, how about yourself?
I'm over here on TikTok. There's the underscore there. It's not just Hey Kami. There's an underscore. You can check me out there doing all sorts of baseball type videos. I put in a few movie stuff videos, more movie a little bit lately because of the Oscars, which I'm happy to be missing. I'll happily miss the Oscars unless I'm nominated. I will always miss the Oscars for you guys. And then 2 months from now, hopefully we'll have that stuff to be able to show off on the show with the movie that I'm doing. And maybe doing a little bit of live games. I guess potentially you guys want me and Craig maybe to hook up together and do some live games for you guys. So that might be something where, just more baseball. I'm always up for it. And just definitely. Thanks to everybody for keeping this show running for 9 amazing episodes. And I love it every single time. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Joel. Ainsley in Winnipeg.
Not from Winnipeg, in Winnipeg.
In Winnipeg.
No, I want to thank you guys too. This has been an absolute joy. I'm not a baseball expert, but I love listening to people who are and just like ingesting, and I feel like a kid in a candy store. So this has been really fun. Ainsley McPhail 2 on TikTok, because there's another Ainsley McPhail out there. And she's
the lesser Ainsley McPhail, I think, as we know.
And then my Twitter is Ains McPhail CTV.
Perfect.
And yeah, my Instagram's Ainsley McPhail. So pretty easy to find me.
Very good. Mark, thanks for running the Discord. We appreciate your jumping in with some comments from YouTube. You did great tonight. So thank you, as always, for all your support and participation there. We couldn't do it without you. So thank you, Mark.
Yeah, no worries.
And Scott, you've got your last chance to get your tickets. So get your pitch out there.
Yeah, that's right. My first debut, or my debut album is going to be recorded April 14th at Grindstone Theater in Edmonton, 2.5 weeks away. Please, everybody in E-Town, go check it out. That was my comedy hometown. That's where I'm going to be recording this album, and you can get your tickets online right now. Yeah.
Well, Joel and I will be there. So,
we will.
All right. Thanks again to everybody, all of you, everybody who's in the live stream. We had about 35 people watching live on YouTube. So thanks to all of you. And we'll see you all next week.